Is another edition of the On the Mic podcast. And I don't normally just get this excited, but when I got the list of names that were being available for interviews, I jumped all over this one. A true OG of the sport. If you don't know her, she'd probably kick your ass for saying you don't know her. She's one of the very best. Not probably, she would kick your ass if you didn't know her. One of the very best and very interesting coming into Bellator 284. I'm very excited to talk to her about it. She's the one and only DeAnna Bennett. DeAnna, how are you?
I'm great. See, that was a great intro. I really like that. Now I'm excited to talk to you as well.
It's all downhill from here, by the way. It's just, that's it.
I don't know. That's where I live. I come from the sewer, so it makes sense. So I crawl out of the sewer myself, so I guess I can go back down to it.
Well, no, we'll stay above ground here. And honestly,
for now.
Yeah, for now. Looking back, 10 years, just kind of reflecting before we talk about your fight and everything. Just looking back, you've been professional since 2012. Where you are at this stage of your career, fighting for Bellator, coming off multiple wins, how would you kind of assess where you're at and how happy are you with where you're at right now?
Man, it's super weird to think about, honestly. I never thought, first off, I never thought I would be a pro fighter. I never thought I'd be like, oh, I'm a pro athlete. Like, I was a weird little fat kid. So it's like the fact that I'm at where I'm at right now is amazing, because I'm like, literally, you saw me as like little butterball myself. Like, I was a weird kid. I was real fat. I like Cheetos. It was a thing. But to say that I've had this little 21 pro fights now, it's amazing, and I get to get up every day and do what I love, and I get to live a life that is honestly, it's great. Like, I don't get up and go to somewhere that I dread. Like, I get up and get to go hang out with my friends, and they try and punch me in the face, but I get to punch them back, so it's okay. And it's great. I mean, how can you complain when you get to get up and live a life that makes you happy? And so, and I don't know what it is, like, this far into my career, you would think like, oh, you're going downhill, and I'm like, maybe I'm like 1 second away from just breaking apart. But I feel like I'm in such a good place, and that I'm in my prime, and then I'm just so happy, and I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. I feel like everything is coming together. I have a great team that I work with, and I'm happy.
I love it. And I, kind of in retrospect, reflecting, by the way, I stopped growing at 13, so I completely understand. I just never evolved. I had high hopes. I sold everyone that I was going to be some top thing. And just once 13 hit, I just stopped growing. But in reflection of kind of your career, but most importantly, women's MMA, especially when you talk about someone who's been around Invicta, who's been around Bellator, who has done all the things that you have done. When you look at it from where you were in 2012, when you first started fighting, to where it is in 2022, women are headlining promotions all around the world. Like, when you look back, how far has this sport come just based around women?
It's amazing to see the growth there. You have, I run into like kids, teenagers that are like, oh, I want to fight when I grow up. And I'm like, I never had that at all. Like, I got into fighting because I caved to peer pressure, and people were just like, you should fight. And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, you're going to. And I was like, okay, peer pressure got me with that one. So like, to have these kids that have people in the sport to look up to, like you said, we're headlining events. Like, when I first started, there weren't females in the UFC. That's back when Dana was like, there'll never be females in the UFC. And they're like, yeah, there was some fighters out there. And one that like I look up to, Jen Howe, she was like a pioneer of the sport. She was in Utah. So somebody who, I know and looked up to. But it's so mainstream right now. And it's so great to see just the evolving. Like, there's kids at the gym, like these young girls that have something to look forward to and to look up to. And it's night and day difference. Like, when I was an amateur, I had 2 amateur fights, and because we couldn't get me another amateur fight, and there wasn't anyone else around. So that's why I went pro. And like, now you have people, it's grown so much, and I'm happy about it. Like, I think it's great, and I hope it continues to evolve.
So what would 2022 DeAnna Bennett tell DeAnna Bennett as an amateur, about where the sport was going to grow? Like if you could go back, or maybe you have young ladies like that you know kind of coach or talk to, or you kind of see them going about this career path, what would you say to them about how far this sport has come and why to keep kind of staying the course and keep going after it?
I think the key is what you said, like stay the course. Like things will get rough, but if you want it bad enough and it's something that you love and you hold dear to you, keep pushing and keep working for it. Like don't take anything for granted. Like the opportunities that are out there, there weren't a lot of opportunities when I started, but I just loved the sport so much that I just kept on pushing for it. And now the opportunities are out there, but like don't take anything for granted. Like if this is something that you love and if this is something that you want to do, then keep working for it. And I wish I could go back and be like, listen, take this a little bit more seriously. Not that I didn't take it seriously, but maybe don't be as weird right off the bat so people will actually take you seriously. Maybe that's the one.
Well, if anyone's watched your most recent performances, it's hard not to take you seriously. And kind of talking about what's ahead of you now. The first and foremost question, I'm sure you've been asked it 100 times today already, but you're rematching Justine Kish, who I talked to last week, and she said, that wasn't me. I still wasn't ready. I still wasn't myself. She went and got a big win against Ilima-Lei Macfarlane, who I have a question about as well for you. But the first question is, why are you taking this rematch? And what is it within you that you're like, you kind of steamrolled on the scorecard. So why are you feeling like, all right, I'm going to take this fight?
Well, it wasn't by my choice. How about that one? When they offered that to me, I said, why? She was my very last fight. Why should I have to fight her again? I actually, when I got done with my last fight, I called out Ilima, speaking of Ilima, and she chose to fight the girl that I lost because she thought it would be an easier win. But we could probably get to that in a second. But I mean, I will fight anyone. I called out basically everybody that was ranked above me. And the only person that would say that they would fight me was Justine. And so it came down to it as like, either I fight this August 12th or against Justine, or I might not be able to get a chance to fight for a while. And so I said, okay, well, I'll take this fight, but just know that when I win, and I'm going to win again, she could say she wasn't ready in her last fight, but that's cool. I'm 10 times more ready in this fight than I was last fight. So it's going to be the same result. Sorry.
No, I love it. I just listen. I just ask the question and then I listen. That's it. This is just a conversation. No one else is here. It's just you and I, DeAnna. But with that said, like, I love it from both sides to be respectful to both of you, because she said she wants to show Bellator what she couldn't show in her promotional debut against you. And it's a proving ground for her, but also for you, like, to kind of get into it, right? Ilima-Lei Macfarlane did just say in another interview, like, she thinks the Bellator rankings are bullshit. And like, that's written out. Like, people can go search that. That's not me making it up. But with that said, first and foremost, when you saw that fight, I don't know if you've gone back and watched Justine and that fight, but what did you think of when that fight was made and when it happened and that Justine got the win?
Honestly, I was really mad when that fight was made because, like I said, after my last fight, Alima's the fight that I wanted. She was the number one contender, and I was number 7 at the time, something like that. I don't know. Like I said, the rankings are bullshit. I do agree with her on that one. But I wanted that fight, and she's the one who made the decision to fight Justine instead. It was no one else's decision but hers. Obviously Bellator backed it because it was this card in Hawaii. So it is what it is. But I mean, she made that decision, and I don't think she wants to fight me. But I was mad because I was pushing for that fight myself and I couldn't get it. And the fact that it went Justine pissed me off, and then she won, and it's like, okay, that's great. I'm glad. And I watched it live, and then I watched it. Obviously, my coaches made me sit down and do tape and watch that fight there. Don't mind me, I'm walking through an Amtrak station.
You're
because
totally
I'm
fine.
that person. So
Totally fine.
But I just so many things that I want to say right now.
Floor is
But
yours. The floor is yours.
I know. I'm like, how do I be nice with this one? But
You're a pro fighter. You guys are never nice.
I honestly, I wasn't impressed. Like, yeah, Justine won. So what got me, it was after our fight, Justine told an interview and just said that she felt like she was wrestle humped to death or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because that's how you just won your fight. So I mean, I think I threw more punches at her face. And so yeah, if she thinks that she's gonna do that to me, by all means, give that a try, because I got training partners that try every single day, and they can tell you how that goes.
Well, this makes me more excited for it. I know you said you're 10 times better. Obviously, Justine feels she's 10 times better from the last time that you guys fought. With that being said, I think it's kind of clear cut, right? Like, you've called out the former #1 contender, the former champion. You've accepted a rematch with someone who you kind of steamrolled past. And now, DeAnna Bennett, it's you go in and do what you expect to do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not for the rest of the contenders? Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide for everyone else ahead of you in the division if you go in and defeat Justine for a second consecutive time?
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm running into the bathroom really fast. I just got to run on that train. So, say it one more time.
I was going to say, with if you go in and expect and do what you expect to do at Bellator 284 on August 12th, is it pretty much a case of nowhere to run, nowhere to hide for the rest of the top of the division, because you've called out the former champ, the former #1 contender? She dropped the ball on that. And really, you're taking a fight that you don't need to take. You're doing it because you want the fight and you want to fight. But if you go in and do what you expect to do, now there's no avoiding you at the top of the division.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to go out there, and this is a statement fight. It's not just rematching Justine. It's making sure the rest of the division knows where I stand and what I can do, and that I'm coming for it.
Well, I'm super excited for it, and I won't keep you that much longer. But the rankings aside, how's it been like for you being with Bellator, having a platform where you could just truly be yourself, fight your fight, and never feel like you have to answer to the company man, or get dragged into things that you don't want to do, or be rushed into decisions that you don't want to be kind of rushed into? I know you said this fight wasn't ideal for you, but what's it been like for you being with Bellator, getting a few wins? Like, how do you feel so far?
I love Bellator. I'm super happy to be under their banner. I really am glad for the opportunity that I have to fight for them, and I hope to fight for them for a long time. You know, I get asked all the time. They're like, "Oh, well, if UFC keep calling," and I was like, we good. I'm with a promotion I love, and I'm gonna win the belt, and I plan on defending the belt, and I plan on retiring from Bellator, and I'm happy about it.
Well, that's music to everyone else's ears, including Bellator. With that, I kind of wanted to, because I was very, very excited, and I can admit that, very excited to talk to you for the first time ever in your career. But something that kind of sticks out to me in the way I do this podcast is letting the fans and the listeners know more about who the fighter is as a person. And for me, when you had to go through adversity and you had to fight and honor your family, you know, just a couple fights ago, what was that like? Because so many fighters, young and veterans, would just walk away from that. They would just not want to do it. They couldn't do it. They could put so much pressure on themselves. But some fighters like DeAnna Bennett turn that into a moment to remember forever and honor, you know, their fallen loved one by performing inside the cage. What was that like for you?
I get chills thinking about fighting at the SAP Center, the one when I fought Alejandro Lara. Like, I wouldn't ever be like, oh, this is my favorite fight. But hands down, fighting in San Jose in front of my hometown crowd, where me and my dad used to go to fights, and honoring him and being there, that someplace that was so special to me and him, it meant the world to me. And right now I got goosebumps thinking about it, just because it was such a special. Just to be able to be there in that arena. I knew my dad was there, and to be able to honor him And it's a feeling I can't even begin to describe. And like I said, his last words to me were fight, because he knew it's something that I loved, that I was good at. And the best thing that I could do to honor him is to keep doing that. Don't let go, and just keep on fighting.
Well, it makes me excited to watch not only your fight at Bellator 24 on August 12th against Justine Kish, but to see you continue to honor his legacy. And I know you want the belt. I know you want to retire the champion. I know you want to defend the belt. I don't think any other way you can honor him best. So, DeAnna, I'm about 5 years in this game, but very unfortunate. This is the first time we're ever talking. But hopefully now I can have you back on whenever. And I would love to talk to you after your next fight. And anytime you have the free time, you're truly, I don't play favorites, but if I could tell the story of DeAnna Bennett, I would tell it every single time. So thank you very much. Best of luck, even though luck's not important in a fight. I truly do appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll talk after Bellator 284.
All right. Sounds good. I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to make sure that you talk to me again.
Trust me, I'll be sharing this interview. I'll be sharing this interview all over social media. I'll have articles written on you. You'll be seeing my name a lot.
Perfect. And I did good, because usually in interviews I say terrible things. My coach gets mad at me and he's like, "You can't say buttholes on interviews." And I'm like, "Yes, I can." So that was my way of slipping that in, so he gets mad at me.
You can say whatever you want on here. This is an open platform. I just advise children not to watch. But other than that, I definitely will always have you on, and really thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.